Welcome back, Nick Lenz, Movie Review, episode number 93. This will be reviewing the 23rd James Bond film and the third Daniel Craig film, Skyfall, released in 2012. Now, here's the thing about this particular film. Okay, now it took 4 years for this film to come out. Why? Because MGM was suffering through financial trouble, so it delayed the release of this film for a few years. I'm sure it was probably planned to release in 2010, but they postponed it by a couple of years. This is the first of two films directed by Sam Mendes. And also forgot to mention, they had Bill Tanner, the current Bill Tanner, make his debut in the last film. And he is, in fact, the godson of Judi Dench's widow. Yes, is her late husband. Yeah, it's basically her late husband's godson. Yep. And, well, the last film was basically her first film appearance. Well, his first film was, excuse me. Rory Kinnear. And he's back in Skyfall. Now, this particular film does delve in a little bit to M's back history. But first, we have the movie opens up with no gun barrel. This is the last film, basically, not to have a gun barrel sequence to open up a film. Next film does. A very poor one, mind you. I will talk about Spectre in the next review, when I talk about the review tomorrow. Yes. Basically opens up with Bond checking out a bunch of MI6 agents. Basically, apparently, what happened though is apparently somebody was leaking information about these MI6 undercover MI6 agents all over Europe, and someone's killing them off. Basically, Bond goes after the guy who has the information. We have this woman named Eve. They don't reveal her last name until like the last 2 minutes of the film, where she's a sniper. Anyways, yes, where she's a sniper, and well, basically Bond has a fight with him. First he chases him, and of course he gets on a train. Yeah, where he takes out part of the train via a. Well, first he gets to the train by jeep, and then he gets on the train. He chases the guy, and of course he gets inside the train by using a front loader while also crushing a bunch of cars. And of course he gets on board. Part of the car runs away, flies off. He just adjusts his tie, like cool. Just walks through, fights, and he gets to the rooftop of the train, fights the guy, and then basically Eve not having a clear shot. Of course, Judi Dench is like, take the shot, and she shoots Bond, and he falls down, and falls directly into the opening title sequence. Unlike it was in Die Another Day, where it hasn't been tortured, this had pulls in the water, which is fine. Basically, be a rebirth of Bond, which will happen after the last film. I should point out that the title song Skyfall is done by Adele, who actually won an Oscar for this particular song. It is an amazing song, though the opening title sequence for this film and the following film has spoilers in it. Yes, I have no idea why in the world they did this for. I mean, yes, that is the rebirth of Bond, fine. But why the heck would you have spoilers in the damn film? Yeah, it really makes no goddamn sense at all when it comes to these particular Bond films. Then, of course, basically we have M in her car, going back to MI6, and then she's stopped by the police. For some reason, they don't really explain why, and then the building blows up. I should point out that this is the first time the exterior of MI6 has been seen since The World Is Not Enough. Yeah, apparently in this timeline, they actually still headquartered at that building. Building suffers an explosion, and it's later revealed to be somebody from MI6 past. I'll explain that later. And, well, Bond overhears this on the news on an island, though he has a lover, and he's drinking Heineken. Now, he has to give him his dry martini shaken out absurd. Hears about it, goes back to London, breaks to Emma's apartment. It's actually the second time in the movies he's broken into Emma's apartment. The first time was actually in Casino Royale, though she was angry with him. This time she's not angry with him. Nope. And it's like, okay, and of course says he's basically came back because he needed to. So he's like, okay, let's have it where, yeah. So apparently, because he was a bachelor, he still have all positions. It's he's like, want to go home, and so like, nope, can't go home. We sold all your possessions, basically. Your property possessions and stored and sold your flat. Yep, yeah, bachelor agents basically get that treatment. So yeah, so he says, I'm gonna stay in a hotel. And she says in the British slang, "Well, you're bloody not staying here." Yep. And of course, first to work, he basically is growing a beard with a little bit of white in it. Yes. I should point out that Dan Craig is about 50, and they consider Pierce Bronson old by the time he left. Yeah. But about Craig, who knows? Yep. He tries to slowly figure out who exactly behind this. And of course, well, he's later sent to Q at an art museum. And Q in this film is played by Ben Whishaw in his debut role as Q. Yep. First film he plays Q. Now, Q has been absent for the last two films. From what I heard, there was a edict where we can't do any gadgets in this timeline, but now we have gadgets. So, this gadget is simply a fingerprint gun. Okay, very similar to how it was in Doc Knows. Matter of fact, there's many references to Doc Knows movie. Yeah, I gotta say, for a movie that's celebrating Bond's 50th anniversary, it does a lot better job doing it in this film than it does in the last. At least the story's interesting, and at least the villain is not basically ripping up other movies. Yep. So yeah, then of course Bond finds the guy later on in Saigon, has a fight with him, and then of course he falls to the window, says, "Where's the list?" The guy falls up, doesn't find where the list is. And of course, we see somebody, and of course, M looking at naughty things, doing naughty things, and more people get names linked on the internet. Yeah, maybe this a bit later. Also, because of stuff with the explosion, and of course, stuff with the committee stuff, yes. So they introduced Ralph Fiennes as Mallory, who is a colonel. They explained the fact he's also a soldier and has too much field work. And he suggests M that maybe she should retire. Okay. Yes, this is probably for the first time in the film series we have basically a better phasing out of an M than the last two M. Basically, one died, the other one just disappeared, and there's no explanation of why they were replaced. At least when they were asked to simply retire. Yep. Oh yeah, who's the main villain behind this? A guy named Raul Silva. By the way, he's an awesome villain. His real name is revealed to be Tego Rodriguez. Yep. Now, how Bond gets to him is quite unusual. Basically, he goes to a club where people are smoking. As a matter of fact, there's usually a woman. He goes to her on the junk. They actually have sex in the shower. They get to a deserted island. Well, an island with buildings on it basically is deserted. And we just to basically the main villain of the film, played by Javier Bardem. Yeah, he's a really cool villain, and basically tells a story about rats and how this island, that story about rat infestation. So, fed piece of rat, and they all ate rat. Basically, that solved the problem. I think that what else was it that I missed? Yeah, and of course the whole thing was Bond being here was sort of a trap. Well, that comes a bit later. Of course, he tries out whiskey. He says, "This is 1962. It's your favorite, right?" Yep, another nod to Dr. No. And of course, then he just, well... Oh yeah, and also apparently Bond is supposedly clear for duty, but he really isn't. Yeah, he actually... Well, M lied to him about being clear for duty. Basically, she wanted him so badly to go after the guy who's responsible for this that she sent a guy who was not medically cleared. The guy was basically shot, was basically terrible because he got shot. He doesn't Eve later, doesn't hold a grudge against her. Basically, has a grudge against M. Mild grudge. Then, of course, he gets captured, taken to MI6 headquarters. Then he breaks out, and he puts into himself very similar to that what the Joker was put in the film Dark Knight, and Magneto from the X movies. Very similar cell. And of course, he shows up, apparently trying to use cyanide poisoning, he was briefly captured. Of course, they reference the fact that, well, when he was an MI6 agent for a particular area, it was during the era of Pierce Bronson. Yep, Pierce Bronson. 1995 to 2002. Yep. It's a mild reference, though, which I do appreciate that. I think there's anything else I forgot. Oh, yeah, the mistress, the woman who basically comes with brings Bond to the island. She is killed by Silva by shooting her in the head. And then right after that, Bond activates his special radio and brings a bunch of army helicopters to arrest Silva. And just him. And not his men, surprisingly. Though he has more men and more plans. Yep, then of course he breaks out, steals, puts on a cop's uniform. Also, apparently he's planning a whole bunch of explosives, but it causes a subway train to crash. Yeah, freaking subway train. And oh yeah, I should point out though that they said that here's the tube on Rush Hour. Yeah, that's not Rush Hour. Now I should point out though they refer to a subway as a tube. That's British term. It's like basically referred to a toilet as a John, or at least a loo, or a elevator as a lift. It's just British terms. That's simply what it is. And he gets on the train, chases Silva for a while. Of course, that thing later, the train crashes. Like, of course, he hits a thing and says, "Here." He sees he's like, "I hope that wasn't for me." Nope, but that is. And of course, Bond he gets run up by a freaking subway. And of course, chases Silva through the streets of London, where during this period of time, M is basically talking to a committee. Despite the fact this guy's trying to kill her. Yep. Then of course, Bill Tanner's here being very nervous. And, says a speech. And then Silva busts in, basically shoots up the joint. Yep. And, M doesn't get shot per se, but she, gets saved by Tanner. Mallory gets a gun, tossed to him by Bond. Well, Bond tosses up a gun, of course, E picks up a gun too, shoots at the people, and misses Silva, but then basically they use fire extinguisher to shoot at them to basically create a smoke screen to get M out of there. And then basically comes the fangasm moment, basically people have been waiting to see. I did not know about this until now when I saw this movie in theaters, I did not know this was going to be in theaters. Now apparently there was reports coming out prior to this film was released that this was going to appear in the film. The return of the Aston Martin DB5. And they get in the car and say, we want any computers, or at least basically something with tracking devices in them. Well, basically nothing with government license stuff. So they take the car and they drive out the countryside. And of course, Bond lifts the thing and basically there's ejector seats. And there's a joke about the ejector seats. It's like, wow, the ejector seats, so funny. Then they proceed to go to his old house, Skyfall, in Scotland. Yep, Scotland. Not MI6 headquarters, Scotland. Skyfall, which apparently was Bond's family home. It's a nice looking house. Looks like a freaking mansion. It was mentioned that he was not actually a rich person in this timeline. But how did his family afford this house? Doesn't make any sense. And apparently his caretaker, very nice guy in the movie, he, from what I heard, apparently he was going to be played by Sean Connery. Despite the fact that he has retired since 2002. Okay, yeah, apparently it was going to be a cameo, but they extended this other guy. Yeah, the caretaker of the place is played by... he's the gamekeeper. It's played by Albert Finney. I'm not familiar with this guy, but... yeah, the guy is particularly very interesting. Then, of course, Bond thought there was going to be weapons at this house, and all but one basically was sold off. And, basically was his father's shotgun. All the rest of it was auctioned up when he apparently died. So, yeah, they basically they turn the house into a Home Alone style trap. Turn bulbs into explosives, put them in the basically chandelier or even the floor. And then, of course, Silva's men show up. Bond hides in the car, and then activates the car's machine guns. Yeah, first time this car's machine gun's been activated since, I think, Thunderball. Yeah, and he shoots them up. Doesn't fire the rockets in this thing, surprise. It just has machine guns. So it's like, okay. And then, of course, they shoot up the car, and then, of course, and Silva comes down in a freaking helicopter, fires at the house, and he proceeds to blow up the Aston Martin DB5, which they later reveal they rebuild in the next film. He goes inside, looks for M, doesn't find her. Then of course the gamekeeper takes M versus Emma, takes her to the chapel. Okay, of course they cross some water. Then basically Bond chases them, basically follows them, and takes down one of Silva's henchmen. Silva doesn't have any name henchmen, it's just basically some nameless henchmen. Fights beneath water, wins. And then we have basically Silva does a really cool moment. Basically, before he gets in the chapel, he stops by the graveyard next to it and he sees the graves of Andrew Manoa Bond. Yeah, my guess is that the reason why that Sam Mendes, or at least one of his writers, put that there was to throw out the codename theory for James Bond. Yes, that was threw that theory out because the theory was stupid. Yeah, apparently it's a codename. James Bond's a codename. They have a fight. Well, the gamekeeper, I don't remember what happened to him in the movie. And of course, apparently that M had been wounded. And apparently he was going to basically commit suicide with her. And then Bond basically stabbed him back with a freaking hunting knife. Which makes him the second main villain to get killed by basically a knife to back. I think the last villain who did that was back in For Your Eyes Only. And that was done by a supporting character. Yeah, not by Bond. Because usually Bond kills the main villain. This is one that then, of course, M dies in Bond arms. Then, well, they have a funeral for her later on. And apparently that, well, they had this sort of minor gag in the movie where she has this ugly bulldog on her desk. And apparently she still had it when she went to the bunker. And apparently went to him. For some reason. And of course, then they go to her office. And Eve is revealed to be Eve Moneypenny. And then, of course, Mallory takes up, well, the position as M. And basically, and the new M, Mallory, asks Bond, are you ready to get back to work? And he says, with pleasure, M. I gotta hand to this office. It looks very reminiscent of the Bernard Lee style office from the 60s and 70s. It's a very cool looking office. And it does show up in next one, which I'm glad the fact that Sam Mendes basically, whoever set designer is, I'm glad that I think they brought him back from next one, and they kept the office exactly the same. Yep. Oh yeah, Moneypenny's role is to become the secretary, though she still has field experience. Yep. But this overall is a really good movie. And I may have skipped some stuff when it comes to the movie, but I could basically talk about the good gist of it when it comes to this particular film. And this film only came out like roughly 7 years ago. Yes. Now, the last of the official release was only released 5 years ago. We'll talk about the next review, Spectre. And we'll talk about all the behind the scenes stuff related, some of the stuff related to Spectre. But I forgot to mention though, Quantum of Solace and Skyfall. The name of these two films actually come from short stories by Ian Fleming, though the titles, the stories were not adapted. Just they took titles. The Quantum of Solace title is from the Living Daylights short story books. I'm not sure where they got Skyfall from. I know it was taken from short stories. Let's see if we can find. I don't think it is. I know that it doesn't say exactly where it comes from, but that's generally what they're doing from it. Is basically taking tales from short stories. But next film's all about for Spectre. And how much of a disappointment it is. First time since Diamonds Are Forever featured them. But yeah, this film it's just really good. It's by far a Dan Craig film so far. It's really good. But I'll give a ranking of the Dan Craig films in the next video. Well, next movie review tomorrow. Okay. So that's it for this particular review. I have roughly 2 more videos coming today. I may get time to do them. Maybe not. I'm not sure. Depends on my mood. Basically, it'll be 2 comment corners. Okay. But see you next video. Bye.